Hello, welcome to another edition of Crop Life Retail Week. I'm Eric Sfiligoj, editor of Crop Life Iron. Back in office again from a trip, which I will talk about shortly. But before we get to that, also welcome back to the program, Lara Sowinski. Lara, how you been?
Fine, thank you. Is this 501? The
This
500
is the 501st episode of the show. Yes, yeah,
balloons.
we're rounding the corner and heading towards 1,000. God,
Wow.
nine
Yeah.
years from now, if we're still here, be having the long white beard and the cane. And I'll be talking about how we used to record this thing uphill both ways when I was a kid.
The ghost of retail week, past, present, future.
Okay, you're getting ahead of the holidays. We just
Okay.
got through Halloween. I have the turkeys out in the house now for Thanksgiving. Do not, just bypass one holiday for Christmas.
No,
Please don't
no,
do that to me. So,
ever.
okay. So, hey, anyhow, one thing to share with our viewers, I was privileged to join with our friends at Nutrien up in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. So for the past 4 days, as we were recording this video, I spent some time up there in Saskatoon, and I got the chance to visit one of the Nutrien potash mines, the Allen mine, which has been around now for 65 years. The mine earlier this year celebrated its 65th anniversary of operation. That was a fascinating journey, Lara. We got into a lift and we went down and down and down. We went down about a mile
Wow. Wow.
underground, and we were in a layer of rocks and minerals that were laid down approximately 350 million years ago,
Wow.
back way before the dinosaurs. They estimate that this layer of material was put down, because of continental drift, that
Mhm.
this layer was actually somewhere near where Peru is today on the world map. And then it slowly, over the last 350 million years, worked its way up north to where it now rests in Canada.
Mhm.
And the mine itself, they mine this rock using these big bore machines, and it makes these nice little circular patterns in the rock around it. And then
Mhm.
the rock is, the crushed rock is sent on a conveyor belt,
Mhm.
and it goes to a mill and it goes through a water process. And I'll actually, just a little visual. This is what the rock looks like originally. This contains salt, clay, and of course, potassium, the potash, which is what everybody is looking to get out of it. So this rock then, 6 hours later, will look like this. And this is a concentrated pellet of potash, which they call a chiclet, which, and I don't remember the gum chiclets, but
Yeah.
it looks remarkably similar. So, but like I said, a 6 hour process from one to the other, and then that goes out to ships and trucks and ships, and is sent all over the world to be used as dry fertilizer to get the crop nutrition in the field so that the crops will have better intake and uptake of their water.
That's so cool. That's a great field trip. That's awesome.
Yes, and if you ever get a chance, I mean, again, and you do have to wear a lot of safety gear. I mean, I actually I felt a little bit, when I was putting on all the PPE material, I'm like, I empathize for being a knight during the Middle Ages, because it felt like you were putting armor on, basically. But again, the one thing about a potash mine is, because it's mostly, salt. That's floating around in the air. It's not dirty like a coal mine would be.
Mhm.
Basically, you just kind of, the temperature stays about 80 degrees the whole time you're down under the ground, and you may sweat a little bit. And when you get back to the surface, you're a little salty, but if you worked in the yard on a summer day in Texas, I'm sure a little bit of sweat salt is not unusual.
Yeah, it almost sounds therapeutic.
It could be. Very, very well could be. So again, my thanks to my friends at Nutrien for inviting me on that trip. I really had a great time learning all about the potash mines and everything that goes into to actually getting the crop nutrients from the ground to the field, where it's then used by the growers to make the crops that we all rely on. So.
Yeah, that's great. There's no substitute for seeing things firsthand and appreciating the scale and what happens and timing and such. So I'm glad. That's sounds like a great trip. Good
It,
for you.
it, it was. And one other thing, of course, besides the mine tour, since we were, we had access to Nutrien and all their key people, I actually did a video clip. There was a gentleman there, Paul Bonnet. He's the Senior Director of Digital Agronomy and Data Science for Nutrien Ag Solutions. And at one point, Paul gave a presentation where he's talking about technology in agriculture, particularly in agronomy. And he was talking about one of our favorite topics, of course, artificial intelligence, AI. And Paul, in this video, talked about, his team kind of looked at AI and its potential uses in agronomy. And here are the 4 things that his team came up with that AI will be useful for going forward. So here's that clip of Paul.
We think there's at least 4 areas, at least in the short term, that we see artificial intelligence helping agronomy. We don't see artificial intelligence necessarily placed in the agronomy, we see it as a aid to the agronomist. So we do time. And these are just some 4 ideas that we've been exploring. First is that we can produce, as Rob said, a huge amount of data. We can pick a field and produce 16 pages of data around the environment in that field this season. No crop consultant going to want to sit through that. One of the things we've been looking at is how do we feed that into a large language model and bring that down to 4 key bullet points that's involved in a human readable sense. So, massive amount of data, no one wants to go through it, but how do you actually convert that into something that can be impactful for a crop consultant grower? The second is all around labour and recruitment and being able to train our crop consultants. And apart from my team, we do this Agronomy Essentials, which is a 3-day intensive on the innovation farms, digging soil pits. We trained 200 new crop consultants from Nutrien Ag Solutions this year across our network. However, we need to accelerate that. So we feel there's an opportunity there for artificial intelligence to really enable our crop consultants to get trained quicker on new technology across the vast spectrum of agronomy that we have to support. The third is about confidence in product use, whether that's crop protection technology, or whether that's seed technology, or whether that's nutrition. The ability to actually understand the benefits, understand where you can use that product safely, understand what things you want to combine with that product to maximize its use. And then the final aspect is agriculture's data has always been messy. There are PowerPoints, there are PDFs, there are multiple formats. There is a great opportunity to use this technology to suck that data in and transform it into a standardized, uniform data set that you can use, regardless of where it's coming from. So they're the 4 kind of practical uses that we see with artificial intelligence from an agronomy perspective. There's loads of others on the operational side, logistics side, but when it comes to agronomy, we feel this technology has massive benefits around training, data, access to data, and interpretation of data.
So that's what Paul Bonnet from Nutrien had to say regarding AI. Again, Laura, I know I've speculated that he mentioned data, cleaning up the data and putting it into a format that is going to be then more manageable for the humans out there like myself. And I thought that was a very important point to point out. And again, labor, he mentioned labor, and we've heard about labor over and over and over again and what AI might do for labor. But his big takeaway was that AI will not replace the human element in agronomy, but it will definitely help complement it.
Yeah,
Matter of
yeah.
fact, I think he made a joke saying something that if we get to the super intelligent AI, that probably humankind wouldn't be around to utilize it. So
Yeah, that's actually it sounds about right.
Yeah. So what do you have to share this week before we dive into our last item?
Well, I guess there's no way to sugarcoat some of this news. However, I just it certain aspects of this news item caught my attention. This is our friends over at Agriculture Dive did a recap of a recent report from the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City regarding farm loans. And not surprisingly, the volume of new operating loans has increased since at the fastest pace since 2017. And another aspect of this is that for the first time in at least 2 decades, loans larger than $1 million made up the majority of this lending volume. Mostly small and medium-sized loans are what's going out, and according to the news report here, higher lending from smaller banks stands in contrast to what was seen coming out of the pandemic, when lending activity declined at smaller lenders and increased at larger institutions. So loan volumes at smaller institutions began increasing last year and this year, according to the report. Of course, a glut of corn and soybean is contributing to this. Let's see, deteriorating environment is also disincentivizing growers from buying new equipment and making other upgrades. So, as we're seeing and feeling, and certainly confirming with those folks that we talk to day in, day out, yeah, it's really, really tough out there. I know, kind of internally, Eric, when we've been talking, the question is, well, gosh, how long is this going to last? When might we see some bright spots? And I think, maybe it was you, a couple other of our colleagues said it, maybe at least kind of this environment until, the first half of next year is over or something. So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to see these things. It's very disheartening. We know that when we talk to people, just how tough it is out there, compounded with the farm bill that's in limbo right now. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of tough all the way
Yeah,
around.
no, you're right. And again, the folks that I talked to at Nutrien, we talked about that a little bit too. And they're anticipating, they're gearing up for some less than stellar times. But again, they do see some positives on the horizon. I'm
Mhm.
sure we'll get to that in some future videos. But
Yeah, yeah.
so, hey, some somber news to share with our viewers. I'm sure there are several people that watch our program and in agriculture who are familiar with the name Al McQuinn. He was the founder of Chem Equipment and a very, very long fixture in the ag industry, ag equipment side of things, particularly. Sad to report that Al McQuinn did pass away on October 23rd, the age of 93 years old. And as I said, Al was well liked by everyone in agriculture, and particularly the city of Jackson, Minnesota, where the Agco folks who eventually purchased AgChem back in the early 2000s, they still have their Fenton Lodge there and a big production facility. And the mayor of Jackson, whose name was Marcus Pulse, said that Jackson lost an iconic member of its community who helped make Jackson what it is, and that without Al McQuinn, Jackson would not be the community it is today. So that's what he had to say. I know on a personal note, I met Al several times over the years working in the business. And one of my favorite stories about him is, as Al got older, as we tend to do, sometimes we need a little assistance walking around. So Al had a cane, very nice wooden cane, but Al didn't always need the cane to walk. He did have it though. But he apparently had a bad habit of leaving at places that he was, hotels or places he was visiting. So he actually had the information for himself, his home address and his name, put on a little plaque on the bottom of the cane saying, if found, please return to Al McQuinn. And I'm told that there were dozens of instances where the cane was returned to Al, and then Al was making friends with the person who returned it. But I did have one person tell me that this was Al's way of sometimes getting people who he was having trouble meeting up with in person to actually meet up with him, because he would accidentally leave the cane
Oh,
at
yeah.
their facility or their office, and then they would feel obligated to return the cane to him, and that's how he would get the meeting that he was trying to get in the first place. So
That's great.
yeah.
That
And
they
one
could,
other thing to talk about Al McQuinn, back in 2000, CropLife did the Millennium issue, and Al McQuinn was a big proponent of ag technology. And he had this quote. I'm going to read it right from our 2000 report because I think it's a very, very insightful one and still applies, of course. He said, technology today is like writing music. There's no limit to the songs you can write using the 7 basic notes, and there's no limit to where technology can take us.
that's
So
great.
words, again, those words are better than about 25 years old, but they still apply today. So Al, we will miss you. You were a great person to know, and we are absolutely very, very touched by all your contributions to the ag equipment marketplace. So you will be missed.
That's nice, Eric. Thank you. I like the story. That's wonderful.
Yeah, well, and we'll have more too. Just pay attention to CropLife online and in print. I'm sure we'll be doing more eulogizing of Al McQuinn, because he was a great individual and, like I said, did contribute a lot. So, all right, well, Miss Laura, time for our favorite part of the program. Time for fun with numbers.
Hey, let me get my lucky pen and paper.
All right. Well, your number this week is a little odd, but it'll make sense, I hope. So it's 200 days.
Okay.
All right. So 200 days. So, Miss Laura, is 200 days, is that the maximum number of days Canadian citizens can spend in the US per year? Is it B, the number of days 40% of US farmers spend working off the farm? Is it C, the number of days between plantings and harvest? Or is it D, the number of travel days I've had so far in 2024?
Oh,
And and then, like a lot of our quizzes, I actually have hard numbers for all 4 of these. So,
I bet you do.
but there's only one answer I'm looking for.
I don't know, maybe because of your trip, maybe it's A. It's C, isn't it?
No, actually, it's B.
Really?
Yeah, this came from the 2022 Census of Agriculture, and it was found that on average, about 40% of U.S. growers spend 200 days a year working off the farm. So they farm as sort of a sideline, and they have another job that is their primary income or focus for the year when it
Wow,
comes to work. So yeah, 40%.
a lot higher than I would have ever suspected.
Yeah, that was 200 days. And if you're wondering, the maximum number of days a Canadian citizen can spend in the US per year, 182.
Okay.
And the average number of days between plantings and harvest for corn is 100 to 105. And the
Oh,
number of travel days I've
84.
had this year, yeah. And the number of travel days I've had this year, 81 so far. So I
Wow,
know and again, given
that's
how
like
much I've been on
40%
the
of the
road,
time
I was
being the
surprised yeah, I
opposite.
was surprised it was that small of a number. But then again, when you think about it, that's like 2.5 months of the year I have spent not at home.
All right. One more trip and then suitcase goes in the closet for
for about 3 weeks.
It's a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's how it is. And again, before we sign off, one other tidbit, of course, I would be remiss if I did not sing and wish a happy birthday to my co-host, Laura Sowinski,
Oh,
who had her birthday on November 1st. Should be a day after this video airs. So everybody on 3, 2, 1. Happy birthday to you.
cha-cha-cha,
Happy birthday to you.
cha-cha.
Happy birthday, dear Laura. Happy birthday to you. And we
Aw,
clap.
that's super sweet.
Yeah, so I
Makes
won't
me
ask
complete.
age. I know better as a gentleman to ask any woman how old she is. But let's just say I'm sure it's a good number, only a number in your mind if you feel young. And I'm hoping that you have a wonderful birthday celebration no matter what you did. I hope it was a good one.
Thank you so much. That's very kind. I appreciate it.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for this edition of Crop Life Retail Week. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you again soon. If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comments section below. Your feedback is important to us. We will try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.